What does it truly mean to love God and our neighbours? This simple question is the heart of our exploration today. We're setting out on a journey to unravel the profound wisdom encapsulated in the greatest commandment that Jesus gave us. This commandment urges us to love God with all our heart, soul, mind and strength. But it doesn't stop there. It also calls us to love our neighbours as ourselves. In the hustle and bustle of our daily lives, we often overlook the depth and breadth of this commandment. It's not just about feeling affectionate towards God and fellow humans. It's about a commitment that permeates every aspect of our lives. Our relationships, our work, our hobbies, our finances, everything becomes a testament to this love. So, are you ready to delve deeper into this realm of love? It's about time we dive in and explore this concept in detail. To understand how to love our neighbour, we first need to comprehend the concept of loving God. Now, you might be wondering, what does it mean to love God? It's not as abstract as it sounds. In fact, it's quite straightforward. The Bible gives us clear instructions on this in Deuteronomy 6:5, where it says, "Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength." Similarly, in Matthew 22:37, Jesus reaffirms this commandment, adding, "and with all your mind." But what does this look like in practical terms? Loving God is not merely about having warm feelings or high regard for Him. It's about commitment, dedication, and putting God first in every aspect of our lives. It's about seeking His will in all we do and making choices that honor Him, be it in our relationships, our work, our hobbies, or our finances. In terms of relationships, it means treating others with compassion and kindness, just as God treats us. In our work, it's about doing our best as if we're working for the Lord Himself. As for our hobbies, it's about enjoying them in a way that reflects God's creativity and goodness. When it comes to our finances, it's about managing them responsibly and generously, recognizing that everything we have is a gift from God. So you see, loving God is not a separate activity that we do once a week in church or when we're reading our Bibles or praying. It's something that permeates every moment of our lives, every decision we make, every word we speak, every action we take. But how do we show this love to God? One significant way is by loving our neighbour. This might sound like a tall order, but don't worry. As we move on to the next scene, we'll explore what it means to love our neighbour and how we can do this in practical ways. So stay with us and let's delve deeper into this concept together. But who exactly is our neighbour, and how do we love them as ourselves? In order to understand the concept of neighbour in its biblical context, let's journey back to a parable that Jesus shared, known as the parable of the Good Samaritan. Found in the Gospel of Luke chapter 10, verses 25 to 37, this story recounts an encounter between a Jewish man and a Samaritan. Two individuals from groups who traditionally held deep-seated animosity toward one another. The story begins with the Jewish man left beaten and robbed on the roadside. Two fellow Jews, a priest and a Levite, pass by, but they do not stop to help. Instead, it's the Samaritan, the supposed enemy, who shows compassion. He bandages the man's wounds, takes him to an inn, and pays for his care. Through this parable, Jesus challenges our conventional understanding of who our neighbour is. He shows us that our neighbour is not limited to those who live next door to us, or even those who share our faith, our culture, or our social status. Instead, our neighbour encompasses everyone we encounter. It's the stranger in need on the street, the colleague we barely speak to at work, the person of a different faith or culture that we may not understand. Our neighbour is humanity in its entirety, irrespective of geographical or relational proximity. In essence, to love our neighbour as ourselves is to recognise the inherent dignity and worth of every individual we meet. It means to show kindness, empathy and compassion, to reach out and help even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. It's about putting aside our prejudices and biases and seeing the person in front of us not as an other, but as a fellow human being, deserving of love and respect. To love our neighbour is to reflect the love that God has for each of us, a love that is inclusive, compassionate and selfless. Now that we have an understanding of who our neighbour is, let's explore how we can love them. Love is not merely an emotion, it is action. So how do we put this love into action? Let's delve into some practical ways we can express love to our neighbors. The first step is kindness. Kindness is a universal language that transcends race, religion, and social status. It's as simple as offering a warm smile, lending a listening ear, or helping with a task. When we extend kindness, we show others that they are valued and loved. Next, we have forgiveness. Forgiveness. The challenging art of letting go of resentment and grudges. It's not always easy, especially when we've been hurt. But forgiving others is a profound act of love. It liberates us from the chains of bitterness and paves the way for reconciliation and healing. Generosity is another crucial aspect of loving our neighbors. This can take many forms, from sharing our resources with those in need to giving our time and talents to benefit others. It's not about the size of the gift, but the heart behind it. When we give freely, we mirror the abundant generosity of God. And remember, love isn't limited to grand gestures. Sometimes it's the little things that make the biggest impact. A comforting word, a helping hand, a meal shared, a prayer offered. Now here's a challenge for you. Try to do at least one act of love every week. Better yet, aim for every day if you can. It doesn't have to be anything extravagant, just a simple act of kindness, forgiveness, or generosity. You'll be surprised at how these small seeds of love can bloom into beautiful relationships and communities. And as we do these, we'll find that we're not just loving our neighbors, but we're also showing our love for God. In the end, every act of love we show to others is a reflection of our love for Him who first loved us. So let's strive to put our love into action every day, in every way we can. The Bible is filled with stories of love. Let's explore a few examples. One of the most iconic parables is the story of the Good Samaritan. In this tale, a man was robbed and left for dead by the roadside. Two people whose society would have expected to help passed him by, but a Samaritan, an outsider, stopped. He bandaged the man's wounds and took him to an inn, paying for his care out of his own pocket. The Samaritan didn't just show love, he embodied it, shattering expectations and societal norms in the process. This story reveals that love knows no boundaries, no race, no status. It is a call to action for us to love beyond our comfort zones. Another story that paints a vivid picture of love is the account of the woman who anointed Jesus' feet with her tears and expensive perfume. She was a sinner, scorned by society, but she expressed her love for Jesus in the most profound and humble way. Her story is a testament to the transformative power of love. It shows that love is not about perfection, but about authenticity and humility. In the Old Testament, we have the story of Ruth and Naomi. Ruth, a Moabite woman, pledged her love and loyalty to her mother-in-law Naomi, a Hebrew woman, even after the death of her husband. She chose to stay with Naomi, adopting her people and her God, demonstrating a selfless love that transcended cultural barriers. Her story shows us that love is not just an emotion, but a commitment and a choice. Then there's the ultimate love story, God's love for us. In the book of John it says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." This is the greatest act of love ever demonstrated, the sacrifice of Jesus for our redemption. These stories inspire us to love others and hence love God. In conclusion, loving God and loving our neighbor are inseparable. We've journeyed through the concept of loving God with all our heart, soul, mind and strength, understanding that this love permeates every aspect of our lives. We've delved into the meaning of loving our neighbor, embracing those who are different from us or in need. We've explored practical ways to exhibit this love and heard inspiring stories from the Bible of love in action. Now, dear friends, it's time to take up the challenge. Let's strive to perform at least one act of love every week, if not every day. It could be as simple as a kind word, a helping hand, or a listening ear. Let's not just hear these words, but live them, for each act of love towards our neighbor is indeed an act of love towards God. As we commence this journey of love, let's remember that every act of love towards our neighbor is an act of love to God.